My son called me a burden at my husband's funeral. So I donated his inheritance to build a shelter in his name. The morning of my husband's funeral, I couldn't stop shaking. Not from grief, though God knows I had plenty of that. I shook because I knew what was coming. I could feel it in the way my son Marcus kept checking his phone, the way his wife Patricia whispered in corners, the way my daughter-in-law's sisters kept glancing at me with barely concealed pity. My name is Eleanor. I'm 62 years old, and until that dark Tuesday in November, I believed family meant something. I believed that 40 years of marriage, of building a life brick by brick with the man I loved, meant something. I believed that raising 2 children, sacrificing careers and dreams to give them everything, meant something. But standing in that funeral home, watching my son tap his foot impatiently as mourners filed past my husband's casket, I realized I'd been living in a fantasy. "Mom, we need to talk after this," Marcus said, not even looking at me. He was 35, successful, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. My husband Robert and I had paid for his law school, his first apartment, his wedding. We'd given him everything. "Can it wait?" I whispered, my hand trembling on Robert's cold fingers. "Please, Marcus. Not today." He sighed like I was asking for the moon. "It's important. Dad's gone and things need to change." Patricia appeared at his side, her perfectly manicured hand on his arm. "We're just thinking of what's best for everyone," she said, that fake smile plastered on her face. The service was beautiful. Robert would have hated it. Too many flowers, too much fuss. He was a simple man who built his construction company from nothing, who taught our children the value of hard work, who held my hand every night for 4 decades. His brother James gave the eulogy, talking about Robert's generosity, his loyalty, his love for family. I watched Marcus fidget through the whole thing. The reception was at our house, the house Robert built with his own hands when Marcus was just a baby. The house where we'd hosted 38 Christmas dinners, where our daughter Sarah had gotten married in the backyard, where Robert had taken his last breath in our bedroom, holding my hand. I was refilling the coffee pot when I heard Patricia's voice from the living room. "It's just too much house for her now. She'll rattle around in here all alone." "Mom's tough," I heard Sarah say. "She'll manage." "But should she have to?" Marcus replied. "I mean, what's the point? Dad's gone. This place needs constant maintenance. And honestly, Mom's not getting any younger." My hands stilled on the coffee pot. Through the serving window, I could see them clustered near the fireplace. Marcus, Patricia, Sarah, and Sarah's husband David. "What are you suggesting?" Sarah asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. "Sunset Meadows has an opening," Patricia said. "It's a lovely senior community. They have activities, medical staff on site, 3 meals a day. She wouldn't have to worry about anything." "And the house?" David asked, ever practical. Marcus shrugged. "We sell it. Split the proceeds. It's worth at least $800,000 in this market. That would more than cover Mom's care and leave plenty for other things." I set the coffee pot down before I dropped it. They were planning to put me in a home. My husband wasn't even in the ground yet, and they were already dividing up our life like vultures. "Has anyone asked Mom what she wants?" Sarah said, but her voice was weak, uncertain. "She's not exactly in a position to make rational decisions right now," Marcus replied. "She's grieving. Vulnerable. Someone needs to think practically. Besides," Patricia added, "it's not like she contributed much to the family wealth. Robert built everything. She was just along for the ride. Just along for the ride. 40 years of keeping his books when the company was starting. 40 years of raising children while he worked 18-hour days. 40 years of being the foundation that let him build his dreams." I walked into the living room, coffee pot in hand, my face carefully neutral. "Coffee, anyone?" They all turned, Patricia having the grace to look slightly embarrassed. Marcus just looked annoyed at the interruption. "Mom, good you're here," he said. "We need to discuss your living situation." "Today?" I asked quietly. "Can't we bury your father first?" "These things can't wait," he said, using his lawyer voice. "Dad's estate needs to be settled. Decisions need to be made. I set the coffee pot on the table, my hand surprisingly steady. What decisions? Well, obviously you can't stay here alone, Patricia jumped in. This house is too big, too much work. We found a lovely place. Sunset Meadows, I finished. I heard. Marcus had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. You were listening? It's my house, I said simply. Sound carries. Mom, be reasonable, Marcus said. You're 62. You're alone now. This place has stairs, a huge yard, constant maintenance issues. What happens when you fall? When something breaks? When you can't manage? I've been managing this house for 35 years, I said. With Dad, Patricia pointed out. But he's gone now. And frankly, you're just one person rattling around in all this space. It's wasteful. Patricia, Sarah warned. What? Someone needs to say it, Patricia continued. We all know the truth. Mom's been dependent on Dad for everything. Without him, she's just, well, a burden. I asked quietly. The room went silent. Patricia at least had the grace to look uncomfortable. Marcus shifted his weight, his jaw tightening. No one said that, he muttered. You don't have to, I replied. It's written all over your faces. Mom, don't be dramatic, Marcus said, his patience clearly wearing thin. We're trying to help. Dad would want us to take care of you. Your father wanted me to live my life, I said. Not be warehoused until I die. Sunset Meadows isn't a warehouse, Patricia protested. It's a luxury senior community. They have yoga classes and book clubs and visiting hours, I finished. And rules about when I can leave, what I can have in my room, when I eat, when I sleep. I'm not a child, Patricia. I'm a widow. Marcus stood up, his face flushing. You know what, Mom? You are being childish. We're offering you a solution, a good life, and you're throwing it back in our faces. Dad left everything to you, fine, but that doesn't mean you get to be selfish with it. Selfish. The word came out sharper than I intended. Yes, selfish, he continued, building steam. That house, Dad's money, the investments, that's family money. Sarah and I have kids to think about, college funds to build. David and Patricia have dreams too. But you'd rather sit in this museum by yourself than think about anyone else. Marcus, Sarah said weakly, that's enough. No, it's not, he snapped. Someone needs to tell her the truth. Dad carried this family. He built everything. And now he's gone, and she's just dead weight holding on to assets she didn't earn. Dead weight. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. I looked at my son, this stranger wearing my baby's face, and felt something inside me break. I see, I said quietly. Mom, he didn't mean, Sarah started. Yes, he did, I interrupted. And he's right about one thing. Your father did build something amazing. He built a company, a legacy, a fortune. But he built it on a foundation, and that foundation was me. Every late night, every missed dinner, every sacrifice, I was there. But you're right, Marcus. I'm just dead weight now. I turned and walked out of the room, out of my house, away from the strangers who used to be my children. Behind me, I heard Patricia say, well, that was dramatic. I sat in my car in the driveway, watching mourners leave, watching my children through the window as they no doubt continued planning my future without me. And that's when I noticed it, the folder on the passenger seat. Robert's lawyer had given it to me yesterday. I hadn't had the strength to open it yet. But now, with my son's words echoing in my ears, I broke the seal. And what I found inside changed everything. Because Robert, my beautiful, complicated husband, had left me more than just money. He'd left me power. And a decision to make. I started the car and drove away from the house, the folder heavy on the seat beside me. They thought I was a burden, dead weight, someone to be managed and contained. They had no idea what was coming. I drove for hours that night, no destination in mind, just needing to move. The folder sat beside me like a passenger, holding secrets I wasn't ready to face. Eventually, I found myself at the Riverside Inn, a small motel on the outskirts of town where Robert and I had spent our first anniversary when we couldn't afford anything better. The desk clerk, a young woman with kind eyes, didn't comment on my funeral dress or red-rimmed eyes. She just handed me a key and pointed to the vending machines. Ice machine's broken, but the coffee maker in your room works. The room smelled like industrial cleaner and old carpet, but it was quiet. Private. I sat on the bed and finally opened the folder completely. The first document was a letter in Robert's handwriting. My hands shook as I read. My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and you're probably feeling lost. But you were never lost, my love. You were always my North Star. I know our children. I know what they'll do, what they'll say. Marcus got his ambition from me, but none of your heart. I've watched him change over the years, watched Patricia poison him against us. I've seen the way they look at you, at us, like we're just bank accounts waiting to be accessed. So I've made provisions. Everything is yours, Eleanor. Not just the house or the company's shares, but everything. The offshore accounts, the investment portfolio, the properties they don't know about. 40 years ago, you gave up your career to build our life. Now it's time to build your own. The second document will explain everything. James knows. He'll help you. Don't let them diminish you. You were never just along for the ride. You were the driver, the navigator, and the destination all at once. All my love. Robert. I read it 3 times before moving to the second document. It was a comprehensive list of assets, and the numbers made my head spin. The construction company was just the tip of the iceberg. Robert had been quietly investing for decades: real estate, stocks, bonds, even cryptocurrency. The total value was staggering. Over $30 million. But it was the third document that stopped my heart. A transfer deed for a 20-acre property on the north side of town. Robert had bought it 3 months ago, just after his diagnosis. The attached note was brief. For whatever you want to build, your turn to create something beautiful. I called James the next morning. Robert's brother arrived within an hour, his eyes red but his handshake firm. He told me you'd call, James said, settling into the motel room's only chair. He made me promise to look after you. Did you know? I asked. About the money? Some of it, James admitted. Robert was always clever with investments. He learned from our father's mistakes. But he kept the real details close to his chest. Said it was insurance. Against what? Against them, James said simply. He loved the kids, Eleanor, but he wasn't blind. Especially about Marcus. I showed him the property deed. What was he thinking? James smiled sadly. He said you always talked about opening a community center when the kids were young. Something for families who were struggling, like you two were in the beginning. A memory surfaced, Robert and me, young and broke, sleeping in our car because we couldn't make rent. The shelter that had taken us in for 3 nights until Robert got his first construction job. I'd promised myself that someday, I'd pay it forward. The kids are going to fight this, I said. Let them try, James replied. Robert's will is ironclad. I made sure of that. He updated it last month, added a specific clause. If anyone contests the will, they forfeit their inheritance entirely. There's inheritance for them? 1 million each from a separate trust, but only if they don't challenge your decisions. I spent the next week in that motel room planning. I met with lawyers, accountants, architects. I kept my phone off, ignoring the increasingly frantic messages from Marcus and Sarah. Let them wonder. Let them worry. On the 10th day, I drove to the property Robert had bought. It was beautiful, rolling hills, mature trees, a view of the mountains. Perfect for what I had in mind. I called the architect Robert's company used. I want to build something, I told him. A shelter. Not just beds and meals, but a place where families can rebuild. Job training, childcare, counseling services. Everything someone needs to get back on their feet. That's ambitious, he said. I have $30 million and nothing but time, I replied. How ambitious can we be? 2 weeks after the funeral, I finally returned to the house. Marcus's car was in the driveway, along with Patricia's SUV and a vehicle I didn't recognize. I walked in to find them in the living room with a stranger in a suit. Mom, Sarah jumped up. Where have you been? We've been worried sick. Have you? I asked mildly, setting my purse down. Marcus stood, his face flushed. You disappeared. No word, no nothing. We thought something had happened to you. Something did happen to me, I said. I buried my husband while my son called me a burden and dead weight. The stranger cleared his throat. Mrs. Morrison, I'm Bradley Hutchins from Sunset Meadows. Your family asked me to come explain our facilities. You can leave, I said pleasantly. I won't be needing your services. Mom, be reasonable, Marcus started. I am being reasonable, I said. I'm staying in my home. End of discussion. For how long? Patricia demanded. Until you fall down the stairs? Until you forget to pay bills? Until the house falls apart around you. I smiled. Actually, I'm selling the house. The room went silent. Marcus's eyes lit up, no doubt calculating his share. I've already accepted an offer, I continued, from the Riverside Community Foundation. They're going to turn it into transitional housing for families in crisis. You what? Marcus sputtered. Your father built this house with his hands, I said. It should go to people who need shelter, not developers who'll tear it down for McMansions. How much? Patricia asked, her voice sharp. $1, I said, plus the agreement to maintain it as transitional housing for at least 50 years. The explosion was immediate. Marcus jumped to his feet, face purple with rage. You can't do this. That's our inheritance. Dad would never. Your father is the one who gave me the idea, I said calmly. And you have an inheritance. $1 million each in trust. All you have to do is accept my decisions gracefully. $1 million. Patricia screeched. This house alone is worth. Nothing to me without Robert in it, I finished. But it could be worth everything to a family with nowhere else to go. This is insane, Marcus said. You're not thinking clearly. We'll have you declared incompetent. Try it, I said. I've been evaluated by 3 separate psychiatrists in the last 2 weeks. I'm of perfectly sound mind. But if you contest any of this, you lose everything. Your father made sure of that. Sarah had been quiet through all of this. Now she spoke up. Mom, what about you? Where will you live? I've bought a condo downtown, I said. Small, manageable, perfect for one person. Everything else is going to the Eleanor and Robert Morrison Family Foundation. The what? Marcus demanded. The shelter I'm building, I said. On 20 acres your father bought for me. It'll have 50 units for families, a daycare center, job training facilities, a medical clinic, and counseling services. Everything a family needs to get back on their feet. How much are you spending on this? Patricia asked, her voice strangled. About $25 million to build and endow it, I said. The rest will be invested to keep it running indefinitely. Marcus sank back onto the couch. You're giving it all away. Everything Dad worked for, everything he built, you're just giving it away. I'm building something, I corrected. Something that will help thousands of families over the years. Families like your father and I were once. Families with children who deserve a chance. What about your actual children? Marcus asked bitterly. What about your grandchildren? You're stealing their future. No, I said quietly. I'm teaching them something their father understood, but you've forgotten. That money isn't just for hoarding. It's for building, for creating, for helping. This is because of what I said, Marcus said. At the funeral. You're punishing us. No, Marcus. I'm setting you free. You said I was a burden, dead weight. Now I'm neither. I'm just a woman using her resources to help people who need it more than you do. I turned to go upstairs, then paused. Oh, and Marcus? The shelter will be named after your father, but there'll be a special wing. The Marcus Morrison Center for Family Reconciliation. Maybe someday you'll understand why. I walked upstairs, leaving them in stunned silence. Behind me, I heard Patricia hiss. This is all your fault. If you hadn't opened your mouth. Shut up, Marcus snapped. Just shut up. I smiled as I closed my bedroom door. The foundation paperwork was already filed. The architects were working on plans. The first families would move in within 18 months. And somewhere, I hoped, Robert was watching and smiling too. But I wasn't done yet. because building something beautiful was only half the plan. The other half? Making sure my children understood exactly what they'd lost when they decided I was nothing more than a burden to be managed. And that lesson was just beginning. 6 months later, I stood on the construction site watching the foundation being poured for the first building. The concrete trucks rumbled in the early morning light, and I thought about Robert laying the foundation for our house all those years ago. Different purpose, same principle. Build something solid, something that lasts. Mrs. Morrison, the project manager, a young woman named Diane, approached with blueprints. We're ready to start the community center wing. Did you want to review the plans once more? I studied the designs: a large multi-purpose room, commercial kitchen, computer lab, children's library. Everything a family needed to rebuild not just their finances, but their lives. It's perfect, I said. When will the Marcus Morrison Center be ready? We're aiming for completion in 4 months, Diane said. The meditation room and counseling offices are already framed. The Marcus Morrison Center for Family Reconciliation. I'd insisted on the name over my son's furious objections. He'd called it passive-aggressive manipulation. I called it hope. I hadn't seen Marcus or Patricia since that day at the house. Sarah visited occasionally, torn between loyalty to her brother and her growing understanding of what I was trying to build. She'd volunteered to teach art classes once the center opened. "Mom, this is incredible," she'd said during her last visit. "Dad would be so proud." "He planned it," I'd told her. "I'm just finishing what he started." The truth was more complex. Robert had given me the tools, but the vision was mine. Every detail, from the playground designed for children who'd never had safe places to play, to the commercial kitchen where residents could learn culinary skills, came from my memories of what we'd needed when we were struggling. My phone buzzed. Another text from Marcus. I'd been getting them regularly for weeks now. "Mom, we need to talk. Please." I deleted it like all the others. He'd made his position clear. I was dead weight, a burden. Well, burdens don't build multi-million-dollar community centers. They don't coordinate with social services to identify families in need. They don't spend their evenings studying nonprofit management and fundraising strategies. The construction crew was arriving in full force now. I recognized several of them, employees from Robert's company who'd volunteered to work on the project at cost. They waved, and I waved back, feeling less alone than I had in months. Mrs. M. Tony, one of Robert's oldest employees, jogged over. "You need to see this." He led me to the area where the children's playground would be built. The crew had uncovered something during excavation, a metal box, rusted but intact. "Time capsule," Tony suggested. I knelt beside it, my heart racing. I recognized Robert's handiwork in the welding. "Can you open it?" Tony worked carefully with his tools until the lid popped free. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was another letter from Robert and a small wooden box. "Eleanor, if you're reading this, you're building something on our land. I knew you would. You always talked about giving back, about helping families like we were. I was too focused on making money to listen properly then. I'm listening now. In the box is something I've kept for 30 years. You'll understand when you see it. Build something beautiful, my love. Build something that matters. Robert." The wooden box contained 2 things: a pressed flower from my wedding bouquet and a photo I'd never seen before. It was me, pregnant with Marcus, standing in front of the homeless shelter where we'd stayed those 3 nights. I was smiling, one hand on my belly, the other holding a handwritten sign. "Someday we'll give back." I sat in the dirt, construction chaos around me, and cried. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that Robert had understood all along. He'd kept this photo, this promise, for 30 years. "You okay, Mrs. M?" Tony asked gently. "I'm perfect," I said, wiping my eyes. "Let's build something beautiful." The next few months flew by. I threw myself into the project, learning construction terminology, attending planning meetings, coordinating with social services. I hired staff, developed programs, created partnerships with local businesses for job training. The first family moved in on a rainy Tuesday in September. a young mother with 2 kids, fleeing domestic violence. She cried when she saw the apartment clean, safe, furnished with donated but quality items. "This is really ours?" she asked. "For as long as you need it," I assured her. "And when you're ready to move on, you'll help the next family." That's how it works. By November, we were at half capacity. The daycare was operational, the job training programs were running, and the community kitchen served 3 meals a day. I was there every day, sometimes teaching basic computer skills, sometimes just listening to stories. That's where Marcus found me, 3 days before Thanksgiving. I was in the kitchen, helping prepare lunch, when he walked in. He looked older, tired, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of his usual suit. "Hi, Mom," he said quietly. I continued chopping vegetables. "Hello, Marcus. Can we talk?" I glanced at the other volunteers. "I'm working." "I know. Please." I set down my knife and led him to the meditation room in the center that bore his name. It was a circular space with large windows, designed for quiet reflection and difficult conversations. "Patricia left me," he said without preamble. I waited. "She said I changed after Dad died. Became someone she didn't recognize." He laughed bitterly. "The truth is, I became exactly who she'd molded me to be. Greedy, entitled, cruel. And when the money disappeared, so did she." "The $1 million disappeared?" I asked. "No, that's safe. But it's not enough for the lifestyle she wanted. She's with some tech executive now. Took half of everything in the divorce, including my dignity." "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "Are you?" He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "I called you a burden at Dad's funeral. I tried to put you in a home. I treated you like you were nothing." "Yes," I said simply. "You did. And you built this to punish me." "No," I said. "I built this because it needed to be built. I named a wing after you because despite everything, you're still my son. And because I hope someday you'll understand what really matters." He was quiet for a long moment. "I've been coming here," he admitted. "Anonymously. Volunteering in the legal clinic, helping residents with documentation, custody issues. I didn't want you to know." "I know," I said. "Diane tells me everything. Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you weren't doing it for me. You were doing it because something inside you recognized what was right." Marcus leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Dad saw this coming, didn't he? What I'd become." "He saw who you were," I said carefully. "But he also believed in who you could be." "I miss him," Marcus whispered. "I miss who I was before I became this person who could call his mother a burden." "That person is still a choice," I said. "Every day, you choose who to be." "I want to help," he said. "Really help. Not for forgiveness or to get back in your good graces. Just because it's what Dad would have done." I studied my son, this stranger who was trying to find his way back to himself. "The legal clinic needs a director," I said. "Someone who understands both sides of the law. It doesn't pay much." "I don't care about the money anymore," he said. "I care about doing something that matters." "Then show me," I said. "Not with words. With work." Marcus started the next day. He was tentative at first, formal with the residents, unsure of his place. But I watched him slowly transform. He stayed late helping a father regain custody of his children. He fought a predatory landlord pro bono. He started a Know Your Rights workshop that filled up every week. Sarah joined full-time as our art therapy coordinator. She said teaching privileged kids finger painting had lost its appeal after seeing what we were building. 3 months later, at the 1-year anniversary celebration, I stood before a packed community center. 50 families housed, 37 moved on to permanent housing, 18 job placements, countless lives changed. "This place exists because my husband believed in second chances," I said to the crowd. "Because he knew that sometimes people just need a foundation to build on." I caught Marcus's eye in the crowd. He was standing with a group of residents he'd helped, and for the first time in years, he looked like the son I'd raised. "When we were young and homeless," I continued, "someone gave us a chance. 3 nights in a shelter that changed our lives. Robert never forgot that. Neither did I." After the celebration, as the sun set over the mountains, I found myself in the memorial garden we'd created for Robert. Marcus found me there. "Mom," he said softly, "I'm sorry. For everything." "I know," I said. "I called you a burden," he said, his voice cracking. "But the truth is I was the burden. On Dad's legacy, on your heart, on my own soul." "You were lost," I said. "Now you're finding your way home." He stood beside me, looking at his father's memorial stone. "Do you think he'd forgive me?" "He already did," I said. "He forgave you before you even needed it. That's what parents do." "I don't deserve it," he said. "No," I agreed. "But that's not how love works." We stood in silence, mother and son, watching the sun paint the mountains gold. The shelter hummed with life behind us, children playing, families cooking dinner, lives being rebuilt. "What was Dad's favorite saying?" Marcus asked suddenly. I smiled. "Money is just paper. Legacy is what you build with it." "I want to build something," he said. "Something that matters." "Then build," I said. "That's all any of us can do." Later that evening, I returned to my small condo. On the mantel sat 3 photos: my wedding picture, Robert's last birthday, and a new one from today's celebration. In it, I stood between Marcus and Sarah, all of us wearing volunteer t-shirts, all of us smiling. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Thank you for not giving up on me." I typed back, "Thank you for finding your way home." I poured myself tea and sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, families were settling into safe beds at the shelter. Children were doing homework at desks they'd never had before. Parents were planning futures they couldn't have imagined. Robert was gone, but his love lived on in concrete and steel, in programs and possibilities, in second chances and new beginnings. He'd called me his North Star, but the truth was we'd navigated together. I'd been called a burden, dead weight, someone to be managed and contained. But burdens don't build legacies. They don't transform pain into purpose. They don't take $30 million and turn it into hope. I raised my teacup to the window, to Robert, to the future we'd built together and apart. "Not bad for dead weight," I whispered. And somewhere in the space between memory and eternity, I swear I heard him laugh. The shelter still stands, growing larger each year. The Marcus Morrison Center for Family Reconciliation has helped dozens of families heal. And in the entry hall, there's a plaque that reads, "In memory of Robert Morrison, who built with his hands. In honor of Eleanor Morrison, who built with her heart. For all who enter seeking shelter, may you find home." They thought I was nothing without him. They were wrong. I was everything because of him, and everything despite them. And in the end, that made all the difference. Thanks for listening. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's building something so beautiful they can't help but see what they missed. And sometimes, if you're lucky, they find their way back home.